Well, Charles, thank you from our Enugu studio, except that we are busting on the time limit. I'm just looking at my watch. You've stolen 4 minutes of our time here. Not to worry, we'll recover. You're welcome to Abuja. My name is Mwabozen Joko on Signature Morning, this Tuesday morning. And this Tuesday we're looking at Nigeria's oil industry, issues in our distribution chain, issues in our distribution network. There are so many things to talk about. And I'm very pleased that my guest is somebody who is deep into it, who knows it, who understands it. And my guest this morning is Dr. Maurice Ibe. Dr. Maurice Ibe is an oil and gas consultant, a man who's been operating on this stuff quite a long time. Dr. Ibe, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Nice to see you.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. By the way, where have you been? Because I just had the same question yesterday. You just took off.
I've been in and out, but I've been around mostly. I've been in and out.
Well, you're welcome to our studio this morning.
Thank you so much.
Now, Dr. Ibe, let us begin from what may be emotional, that's the word, for many Nigerians this morning, and that is Nigeria's many tanker fires. As a matter of truth, there's a story we did on that tanker fire that almost caused a teardrop from my eyes. The one that happened in Diko in Niger State, and then followed by the one that happened in Enugu along the Enugu-Onitsha road, where Nigerians were literally roasted alive. Families, in that of Diko, entire families lost about 5 members. And you saw people peeled off, their skins peeled off in a matter of seconds. Why? Because a tanker laden with petrol had fallen. Of course, poverty is always here with us. People went to scoop petrol and bam, an explosion, and people were roasted. Now that brings me to the question of Tibe. Are we nailed on distribution by road, and there are alternatives that are safer than trucking petrol by road?
Thank you so much for having me again. It's a pleasure to see you and to talk to you once again on matters concerning the oil industry. First and foremost, may I ask God to grant the souls of all those who have perished in these tanker explosions permanent and restful peace. It's unfortunate that in a country that, if you look back 60 years ago, 50 years ago, we have railroads, means of transportation. But let me talk about the tank explosions first and foremost. The solution is not banning 60 liters. The solution is not banning 50 liters. The first thing,
60,000 really, and 50,000.
The first thing that I expected the government to have done, this didn't start today.
No.
Was to thoroughly investigate the cause of these explosions. Let's determine the actual cost. Is it that the drivers were driving for too many hours, got tired and veered off the road? Is it that the tankers themselves had some mechanical issues? What are the exact causes of the explosions? What are the exact causes of the accidents? In every part of the world, you have an accident bureau that examines and investigates an accident. You determine the cause. Based on what you determine is the cause of the accident, then you can devise
an answer
to it. It's not by outright, I've banned. If you ban 60,000 liters,
have you banned 40?
Have you banned
3,000?
So what happens if they all keep exploding and having accidents? So the first thing to do is to get to the actual root of the problem. Then you can mitigate it. But you don't outrightly ban from the comfort of your office in Abuja without knowing what happened on the road. That's the first issue. Second is, we always had rail transportation in this country. We had rivers all over there. We have seas and rivers all across our country. None of these waters have been properly dredged to enable vessels transport fuel from one location to the other. And then, even if you have to transport by road,
Yeah,
it becomes
short
very short distance. The rails are comatose. I was raised in Enugu, and just remember people traveling from the east to the north didn't go by road.
No, they went
by rail. It was by rail. Today, non-existent. Even when the former government designed a railroad system, they literally abandoned the whole southeast.
Yeah.
They cut us out. And meanwhile, we are the biggest traders in the country.
The biggest
we are the greatest movers of products from one location to the other. Meanwhile, we were not captured.
We're not factored.
In fact, we are not factored, thanks to IBB. We are not factored into the scheme of things. So, we can depend on the rail to transport these products from one location to the other. We can depend on vessels because the waters are shallow, they can't move petroleum products. So we're stuck by, for now at least, transporting by road. So the least the government should do is investigate the cause of these accidents so that we can mitigate it for the future, not by outright banning. Banning hasn't solved the problem because 10,000 liters can explode, 5,000 liters can explode, 40,000 can explode. So banning 60,000 liters is not a solution to the problem. But if they say that's what they think is the solution, good luck to them. But I personally don't think is the solution. The solution is variety of things. First, there's a lot of hunger in the country. So anywhere anybody sees an opportunity to make one penny,
they just
go on to it, regardless of the.
Even when
you're gonna die anyway. You will die anyway. If you don't die of hunger,
the fire.
So you can't have 5 children with death staring you in the face, and you see an opportunity to make a little money to feed them, you will take the chance. That's human nature. That is basic human nature. So we can sit in Abuja and smile and talk and cry all we want to cry. The first is the economic hardship all over the country. That needs to be addressed. Then second of all, find out the cause of these accidents and explosions so you can properly and adequately mitigate it.
Okay, Doc, we're not going to invest so much time on that. It was just an emotional thing to me, and there's so many Nigerians who died in these tanker accidents. I said, as somebody who knows it, at least we should converse on it. There is the tanker drivers trade group. They're on strike now. And the agitations began from Lagos. The tanker drivers accused Lagos State government of all manner of taxes and all manner of levies. But the Lagos State government says it has introduced an e-collop by which vehicles from which companies are known, their registration numbers known, and they are invited to the loading point in an ordered manner. And the Lagos State government said the reason is very simple. The static load which these tankers constitute on the bridge creates an infrastructure danger. So in managing it, they stay a little distance in wherever they are, and they are invited in team. You go, you load, you move. You do not cause gridlock, and you do not cause static load. Doc, doesn't this make sense?
It does make a lot of sense. As a matter of fact, I live in California. I also lived in New York, where the New York Transportation Authority, or the Department of Transport, New York constitutes one of the busiest transport networks in all of the country. California has a seaport in Long Beach, which used to constitute a big nuisance because of trucks coming in and out. So the e-collop is a similar system they use in Long Beach, California, whereby no everybody doesn't come in. You only come in when you are called to come and pick up your goods and leave. One, you don't cause horrible traffic on the freeways and highways, and secondly, it eases the pressure on the freeways. In the case of Lagos State government, I think it's a great concept, but you see, one of the problems we have in Nigeria is that when a system is being designed, nobody carries the stakeholders along. I can pretty much assure you, if due consultation was had with the stakeholders, especially petroleum tanker drivers, they are one of the biggest movers
of this product.
There is also the Association of Distributors and Transporters of Petroleum Products, whom I consult for. There's also the Independent Petroleum Market Association, whom I consult for, and the others. Now, if the Lagos State government, from beginning, had engaged all the major stakeholders, we wouldn't be where we are. So these arbitrary decisions create a major problem at the point of implementation. It looks good, and I can vouch that system is a good system, no doubt about it. But there is also something the Lagos State government is not telling us, that I can tell you. The implementation of the system is coming with a cost, and that cost is what you see the petroleum tanker drivers fighting against.
What cost could it be?
Believe you me, I know that this implementation was not done for the sake of it. Lagos State government is naturally imposing some taxes to cover the cost of implementation and also make some revenues. That is where you see the tanker drivers
agitating.
Oh, exactly. And any natural, normal human being who is in business, you don't want to keep paying levies and taxes. And Lagos seems to love to indulge in tax, levy, tariff everywhere. So the tanker drivers rightfully are trying to reduce the cost of their transportation.
Yeah, but Doc, one time when you and I spoke, we agreed that these tanker drivers are servants to the tanker owners, the companies that own the tankers.
Let me stop you right there.
Please.
Let me stop you right
Please.
there. Because I consult for the owners.
Please.
I have been in a long-running battle with petroleum tanker drivers for the past 2.5, 3 years. I've never been one to speak for them because of their attitude. It's unfortunate today they are fighting tariffs and levies against themselves. That is what they do to the owners of these tankers, who are my clients. An average tanker to lift from a depot anywhere in this country could run you from 250,000 naira per tanker.
Levy? No, just a minute, Doc. That is, the tanker belongs to me.
And you have the
I employ the driver.
God bless you.
And I dictate the driver to go and lift product.
That's right.
And he levies me.
That's right. Chief, I have litigated this in every single government agency in this country. I've taken this matter to the Secretary of Government of the Federation. I've taken this matter to the Inspector General of Police. I've taken this matter to the National Security Advisor's Office. There is no agency of government that we have not litigated this. None. That I own a tanker and I come to load fuel, sometimes in the depot that I even own, and the petroleum tanker drivers will force me to pay 250,000, 300,000 naira, sometimes more, per tanker.
For what? Can I know?
You ask them. When we went to the Secretary of Government of the Federation, this issue was litigated for almost a year. Almost a year. And in their normal ways. That's why nobody's taking them seriously today when they are crying foul about taking going on strike. Because every single thing, the next we are going on strike. The National Security Advisor has investigated this. When we took this issue to him, and he came up with, in fact, they found that they were even charging more than what we're alleging. They were even charging more in every single depot in Nigeria. You can't lift 50,000 liters of fuel without coughing out 250,000, in some cases 300,000.
The tanker drivers. To my employees.
I'm giving you.
To my employees.
Exactly. And let me land. The sad and unfortunate thing is that the petroleum tanker drivers are not even supposed to collect levies by virtue of how they're established. They are under NUPENG.
Yes.
And by virtue of NUPENG's constitution, they're only supposed to collect not levies anywhere, but dues, which is about 2.5% of their salaries. So I'm here today,
which the employer can as well remit.
Exactly. I'm here today now, almost defending them against the Lagos State government. But this is the same hard, poisonous
medicine
they are giving to the owners of this land.
Doc, just 1 second. If an organization is to pay a levy to the Lagos State government, isn't it the company that owns the tanker and not the servant of the company that owns the tanker?
Exactly. I mean, naturally, as an owner, you give the tanker driver.
Yes.
You make available the money for him to pay when he gets to the depot.
Yes.
Or whatever levy or whatever taxes, whatever he deals with on the road, you make it available to him. So what they are fighting is to keep most of those monies in their pocket. And then, so long as the state government is charging them these high tariffs or whatever they call it, it means nothing or less is going into their pockets. That's what the battle is all about. But I'm saying that Lagos State government should have carried everybody along.
Yeah, I think that's a critical point in designing a policy like this.
Exactly.
Lagos State government should have communicated, taken everybody along, conversed on it.
Exactly.
Of course, this is a democracy now. This is a military. It's not a military rule.
God bless you.
Well, you are still watching our morning show this Tuesday morning. I'm laughing because I wonder how my employee will then ask me to pay him a levy. Well,
this is
that will be a conversation for another day. We take a break and we'll return shortly. Please stay with us. You are still watching our program this morning, Signature Morning, and we are reaching you from our Abuja center. My guest is still Dr. Maurice Ibe, an oil and gas consultant. We've been looking at the tanker drivers strike and the irony of it, that an employee will now tell his employer to pay him levy. Maybe another day we'll get into more details of it. But Dr. Ibe, tomorrow, Wednesday, will be 7 days since Depot chairman called a press conference in Abuja to the effect that if they were not paid the outstanding 192 billion naira bridging claims all their members, they will go on strike. We're not discussing strike. And here is another reason for another trade group to want to go on strike. Two things fascinate me. The forum of depot managers say, who are in fact the owners of the fuel stations, who truck and all that, they say, look, what we're asking for is bridging claims. And I asked them a question. What is the difference between this bridging claim and subsidy? Maybe you help me, because I wouldn't use the word rabble. They were not very clear to me. What is the difference between these bridging claims and subsidy?
Thank you for that question. Bridging claims is not subsidy. Subsidy is the differential that the government pays between the importer of a petroleum product and the pump price to ameliorate and keep prices down for me and you who are the consumers. Bridging claim is actually monies deducted from the transporters to bridge the cost of transportation of this petroleum
products
from the south to the far north mostly. And it's coming from their pockets. This is not government money. This is not taxes. This is not free money. This is not government freebie. These are monies that they have contributed. They have given the government to hold for us, to enable us bridge the cost of transportation from, say, Lagos to Kano or Port Harcourt to Maiduguri.
So they incur the cost, and the government keep that money on their behalf.
So the idea is, when they now submit their invoices or their vouchers to be paid, you should pay them without questions. Chief, I have, if you recall, I mentioned that I consult for the independent petroleum marketers.
Yes, you said so.
Okay. And some of the independent petroleum marketing members are all
part of this.
During the Muhammadu Buhari administration, I shouted my voice hoarse on payment of these bridging claims. At the point, it was over 300 billion naira. In fairness to President Buhari, he had one of his, I think it was administrative officer, to schedule a meeting between myself and the current executive director of Midstream Downstream Petroleum Authority by the name of Engineer Farouk. We had a meeting for more than 1 hour and 45 minutes in the villa on this issue on behalf of these petroleum marketers. Now, we had an understanding that they will begin to liquidate these bridging claims. Again, the members were threatening strike. I intervened. They engaged me as a consultant for this and many other things. I had this arrangement under Buhari's government. And when we left, Engineer Farouk promised that they will start reducing that they've been paying, though insignificantly. But after that meeting, he ramped up the payment. But unfortunately, the Nigerian factor kicked in. Part of the biggest problems these people have is that those in the leadership of the independent petroleum marketers, the executives of these associations, are less than honest to themselves. You have an agreement with the government. I, as your consultant, have negotiated
on your
behalf, spoken
for you,
extracted an understanding for you. Because you don't want to pay my fees, you go behind and work another illegal arrangement behind me that enabled you to collect this money without paying me, probably cede some of it to people at their authority, not pay me and walk away. So they succeeded briefly, and here we are.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So they are shouting today because they did not meet their obligations to me as a consultant who spoke on their behalf.
You can't speak again for them.
You have to pay this time up front before I speak for you. I had the meeting, 2 hours meeting in the villa. 2 hours meeting in the villa with Engineer Farouk, the current executive secretary of Nigeria Midstream Downstream Petroleum Authority, on how to resolve this matter. And we agreed. We shook hands. And in fairness to him, he started implementing it. But my own clients now, instead of paying my fees,
and
try
continue the relationship
without. So I stepped back, and that is where we are back today.
Peter, we never knew this was going to come up.
So this is what is creating most of their problem. If they had let their appointed consultants
keep working
on their behalf, by today we won't be talking about this bridging.
192 billion naira.
At that point, it was about 400-500 billion.
Okay, but Doc, there's something I want to understand. Even though you mentioned it, but I think in my own gratuitous ignorance, I need to be better educated. And that is that this money being asked for is not government
money
paying the people. It is government paying them back their money. In other words, government has been doing business with their money.
Absolutely.
And refusing to pay them their money.
Absolutely. Absolutely, that's the fact of the matter.
Which agency should now pay the money since that agency no longer exists?
It is the Nigerian midstream, downstream petroleum.
They are now responsible for this payment.
They are now responsible for the payment, and they acknowledge they are responsible. Their argument is always that we don't have 200 billion to pay, but we can start.
But no, but they collected 200 billion.
They collected.
So
Good question.
why is it?
You ask me that.
Maybe we get across to them. They may
It
tell
is,
us.
it is not government money.
They may tell us where the money
Absolutely
is.
not
We
government
will try and get across to them. Maybe they tell us where this money is. Last week, Doc, it was all over the media that Dangote refineries had reduced pump price of petrol for the depots to 856 naira per liter. I'm still watching for it to reflect. I'm being told by my reporters that the excuse they are getting is that lifting all this petrol or these products has been hampered by the current strike. Let us see what happens when the strike is over. For now, the queues are here. Okay. But if Dangote has dropped the depot price of petrol or PMS, what I expect is that Nigeria, the conversation should be that free market is working. Subsidy is paying some good dividend. Removal of subsidy is paying some good dividend. Competition is healthy for the economy. But the conversation I'm getting in the media is that Dangote is angling towards a monopoly by reducing his price. Does that fear, is it reasonable? Is it rational?
I will put it this way. That is absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. I wonder why we dwell in our fears in a country like Nigeria. I had the opportunity of meeting with Dangote Refinery. I took my clients, Independent Petroleum Market.
Yes.
I negotiated their direct lifting with Dangote Refinery. I took the team from Ipman. We met with Dangote Refinery over a year ago to negotiate their ability to lift products directly from Dangote instead of buying from NNPC and third parties. I negotiated that. Again, the Nigerian factor kicked in. After I had wrapped up the negotiations, what did they do again? They again tried to walk around me so I don't earn a fee to start lifting. But they couldn't. They had to now go to a third party to sign all manner of ridiculous agreements. But that's by the way. Dangote is functioning. Dangote is not in charge of Warri Refinery.
Great.
Dangote is not in charge of
Port Harcourt
Refinery.
It's not going to run
Dangote
Kaduna.
is not in charge of Kaduna Refinery. For God's sake, why can't we as a people, why can't we as a government do the right thing? When NNPC last year was bamboozling the entire public about Port Harcourt Refinery functioning to full, I was on television on many occasions and I said they are misleading the public. As at the time they said they were operating at 60-70 capacity, I said they were even operating up to 10% capacity. Quote me. Some television crews went to Port Harcourt and reported back. In fact, I was in a studio, a television studio, talking to some anchors when they called in and said, yes, Dr. Morris is right. There's about 5 trucks here loading fuel. Instead of 50 or 100 trucks, there are 5 trucks. And somebody is telling you that is loading, is operating at 70% capacity, Port Harcourt Refinery. I said, it's damn absolute nonsense. Within 2 months, since December, that place has been shut down. It hasn't produced a liter. They came to Warri. Again, they started all their nonsense PR. Oh, Warri is functioning, blah, 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 blah. I can tell you forever is what. Warri is not operating up to 15-20% capacity. And I said to the pressman, I said, if Port Harcourt was running at 50% capacity, you will feel the impact at least within the Port Harcourt vicinity. You will feel it in Port Harcourt, in Aba, in Owerri, in Enugu. At least the main environment where the Port Harcourt is, this is not rocket science, it's basic economics. For God's sake. I said, this place is not functioning up to 15-20% capacity. That's why I have 5 trade trucks rolling out with products. And those products were just for PR purposes. So NNPC can claim credit. Now, how can Dangote, that is not responsible, is not running our refineries, run a monopoly in the government where you have 4 refineries comatose? Why? Is it Dangote's fault that you have 4 refineries that has not functioned in how many years? Port Harcourt, they spent $1.5 billion. That's what they are staying in public. And I can bet you it's over $3 billion they have spent on Port Harcourt refinery. They have spent way over $2.5 to $3 billion on Port Harcourt. And yet we don't have a drop of a liter of fuel coming out of there. And you are blaming Dangote that is operating in Lagos. That has no control over your refinery. What is wrong with us? What is wrong with us? Is Dangote telling Nigeria's refineries not to run? He tried to buy one of them at some point. You people wouldn't sell.
Obasanjo said that much.
You had 4 refineries, for God's sake. Not one is functioning. Forget about the misinformation in the media. Not one is producing anything. And you're blaming Dangote, a private individual. This is free market economy. If you guys are not functioning, you have literally given him the monopoly.
That's the truth.
You can't blame him.
That is the
fact.
You
can't fault him.
That is the fact.
You can't fault him.
If they refuse to function, the one that is functioning is in the market.
So be it. So be it. That's the truth of the matter. I mean, we can't just there is this thing about Nigerians. The masses seem to hate wealthy people. The masses seem to hate politicians. The masses anything that looks good. We, at the other
end of it,
seem to dislike it. I can understand that. You can dislike politicians all you want. I can understand their corrupt tendencies, how they've ruined this country. But if you have businessmen who are succeeding, we should encourage them, regardless of what to think about them. If they are succeeding and they are putting their money in our system, employing many of Nigerians, trying to make our economy function, we should encourage them, not accuse them of
monopoly. Doc, just move back a little bit. Sam, being told by my producer, there is another issue, please, which you and I had conversed on some time ago, which I thought should have been factored into our oil industry now to stop all this conversation about monopoly or no monopoly, product or no product. Our modular refineries. There was a time modular refineries were the conversation. It raised expectations. In fact, I was one of those who celebrated and said, look, at least with 2-3 modular refineries, even if they distributed within their environment, it reduced pressure. But it seems that was just idle talk. What's happened to our modular refineries?
If you remember or recall, we had this conversation a long time ago. And I will repeat what I told you then. When Nigeria conceived the idea of modular refineries, it was a fantastic idea, fabulous idea, because the only way we can get these products readily available to our people is by having small, serviceable modular refineries in every part of the country. They're easier to maintain and service. You can bring them down, service them, load them back up. They can service little communities. They serve all the communities around the country, several modular refineries, than one big refinery that when it goes down, hell breaks loose.
And all the trucking problems we'll be conversing over this morning.
Exactly. What is the problem? NNPC, in their usual selves, granted these licenses, I call them briefcase modular refinery licenses, to their friends who had no financial or technical capacity
to either establish or run them,
to do anything. You have people running around with modular refinery licenses that cannot buy 100 liters of PMS. I said they cannot buy 100 liters of PMS, but they have a modular refinery. I get a lot of them come to my office sometimes. You look at the man carrying a modular refinery license. You say, what is wrong with that country? So what has happened? We have licenses issued to people who don't have the capacity to establish these refineries. The only one that so far is functioning to everybody's is the one in Ohajegbema, owned by Walter Smith Petroman. So if Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, in its right senses, gives these licenses to those who have the capacity, vet them well, vet them, make sure they have the financial capacity and they have the right technical know-how or partners to establish the refineries, by now we will not have less than 10-20 modular refineries functioning, and all this talk will have been by the way. But they have to go back to the drawing board. I said then and I say it again, cancel all these licenses you have granted, vet the new people that you want to give these licenses, make sure they have the financial capacity, and they have proven that they are signed technical partnership agreements with technical people who can come in and actually
help
establish this license and put a time frame to it. Put a time frame that is this modular refinery is not up and running by X number of years, you relinquish it. Let it be part of the agreement. It won't be where we are. Chief, this is not rocket science. But this is not rocket science. This is ABC. I mean, it's as simple as that. Why are we making the simplest of tanks look like it's going to the space? I don't understand it. We have brilliant engineers in this country. We have brilliant financial people in this country. Why can't an NPC bring them to do the rightful thing? If you can't do it as an organization, sub it out.
Yeah, in fact, that's the point I was coming to.
Sub it out.
NNPC is a player and is the authority giving license and is the regulator. Isn't that
the real monopoly? Isn't that the real monopoly?
Because that could also cause a problem.
That's the problem you have. You have everything. You are the judge and the jury. That's the monopoly you're talking about. NNPC is everything. When I went to Dangote to negotiate direct lifting for IPMAN, independent petroleum marketers, NNPC didn't want it. I had to do a memo to the president and the SGF for them to get involved. That was the only way they got NNPC to step back and allow IPMAN to lift. Because Dangote told it to our faces, we can't do anything unless NNPC Limited allows us to sell to you, because they are the primary off-takers. I had to seek a meeting with the Secretary of Government of the Federation. I had to do a memo to that effect and back it up with facts and figures before they were able to get NNPC to back off and allow the independent petroleum marketers to lift directly from Dangote Refinery. So who is the monopoly here? You control the upstream, you control downstream, you control
the distribution network.
You control everything. We don't breed unless NNPC says we should breed. They talk about, they don't give you money, you can't allocate money to state government. What kind of system are we running, for God's sake? They may decide that, we only sold this much, this is only money we are giving to the government this year. That means the whole 36 states FAC allocation monthly dips. Why are we allowing NNPC to hold us by the jugular? And they tell you, they first tell you, we're a private limited concern.
That's what I'm getting to.
That's absolute nonsense.
Private limited concern.
Absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Because they've got their fingers in every part of our lives in the oil and gas industry. They've got their fingers in every part of our lives. And we can't continue like this. Look at how they fought Dangote to a standstill. If you recall it, when Dangote refinery came on stream, they wanted to strangulate the refinery. That's not an NNPC didn't throw on Dangote to make it not work. But unfortunately for them, they made the air work. So that's a problem. And I don't know if it is that our government is scared to audit NNPC, revive and restructure it to make it function for the greater good of all of us.
Yeah, but the conversation has been abroad,
it's crazy,
Dr. Ibe, that government has no business in business. So no matter how hard you work, no matter how fierce you trash government, it remains to be government. It remains government. If inefficiency seems to be part of governance in Nigeria, and everything that government has its fingers in ends up inefficient.
In a disaster, actually. In a disaster. But, I think, so long as the Nigerian government has a stake, and a majority stake for that matter, in NNPC, they have a say. They can force NNPC to bring any of the very reputable accounting firms
to audit
them and make recommendations, and make sure those recommendations are followed to the letter. There's nothing wrong with it. You have it. You are a major stakeholder in NNPC. So is it that you are scared of NNPC, or is there something they're not telling us? Is there something somebody's not telling us?
Well, all this is because I raised the question about the conversation on modular refineries that we had many months back, and it was just like a mere excitement that didn't bear any fruit.
Not at all.
It's an unfortunate situation. Well, Dr. Ibe, I'm looking at my time. My producer said I don't have more than 10 minutes, and I want to invest the 10 minutes a little bit wisely. OPEC report 5-6 weeks ago was categorical that Nigeria is capable of producing up to 4.2 million barrels of crude oil every day. Nigeria is about celebrating producing up to 1.82 million barrels of crude oil a day. First, if OPEC is willing, has looked at us, and is willing to give us this very open window, why do we seem reluctant to take it up? What are the drawbacks? What are we not doing right? Do we really have the capacity?
Of course we don't have the capacity. It's not that we're reluctant to take the opportunity. I've spoken on this on many occasions. Actually, the fact is that Nigeria has the capacity to produce more than 5 million barrels a day.
We have the capacity.
We can produce. Let me put it that way. We don't have the capacity, but we can produce if we put our.
If we put
we can do
together.
more than 5 million barrels a day. That's the truth of the matter. What are the problems? Oil bunkering, vandalization of pipelines, insecurity, and a lot of the abandoned wells in the Niger Delta. You have the Ogoni problem. If you don't clean up Ogoni and persuade the community to please let us come back in, they will not allow you to come back.
Which, let me also say it openly, which the Tinubu administration, I admire the cards he's playing.
Yes. So
very deft and result-oriented cards.
He's doing everything he can. But if we as a people, we as a government, is not willing to deploy maximum security, the current they've done quite well. That's why we're able to go from 9 something to 1 point. And if they ramp it up, we can get to 2.5. If they really do more, there's no reason why Nigeria, that has been producing oil for 60 years, cannot produce 5 million barrels a day. It's not. It's beyond anybody's imagination. So it's a combination of factors. Let me not take too much of your time. We need to ramp up the security to reduce vandalization, reduce oil bunkering or oil theft, breakage of pipelines, deploy better technology, go and start drilling in some of the abandoned wells in the Niger Delta, clean up Ogoni thoroughly, and negotiate with the community to allow us to come back and start drilling. We can very easily surpass 4.2 million barrels unless we're not serious.
But I'm going to push your mind a little bit away from the factors you have enumerated. And I'm going to draw from so many documentaries I've had the misfortune of watching about the international politics of oil, the many sharks that swim in it, including state sharks that swim in it. Everywhere in Africa that oil has been discovered, it doesn't take 9 months, which is the full term of a baby, to be born, for conflict to erupt in that place. While that conflict subsists, the international oil companies are still drilling and doing business.
Bless you.
And one of those who have bought into the conversation that Nigeria's oil sector crisis, as much as it is political mismanagement, is not totally homegrown. Because as the crisis subsists, international oil businesses are doing good business in Nigeria.
Very true. Very true.
Don't you think that beyond the factors you mentioned, there must be some fit columnists who are helping us to remain in crisis so that their own bank accounts can also be getting further and further?
Yeah, you don't have to look too far. Some of them are working for us here, or with us here. I've done many research on this sector, and there was a time they would bring guns to exchange for oil. As we're speaking, Nigeria is illegally exporting more than officially
pronounced.
So if you add what is illegally being exported, and some of them with the blessing of people in government, so if you add what is being illegally exported to the 1.8, you almost at 4 million barrels a day. I don't know if you get the.
I'm following you.
So you are absolutely right. There are fifth columnists being propagated by a lot of these multinationals. I hate to say it. Many of these multinationals have handled it. Even in some African countries where they have gold and diamond, the same story. The same story. Every African country where you have a rich mineral, that's an homegrown crisis, and those homegrown crises are always being propagated or instigated by
external interests.
So it is true, but if you allow yourself to be,
that's the point now,
then you can't blame anybody. You can't blame anybody. I hope the audacity of the current government to do the impossible, to do what people think nobody could do. I hope he will dare. I hope the president will dare to challenge these dark forces. I hope the president will challenge some of these people. Some of them are working with us in the oil and gas.
Some of them have been working for him.
Call them out and punish them. His bold, audacious moves is what will save this country going forward. And I can tell you, if he doesn't call them out, if he doesn't boldly challenge them, if he doesn't prosecute them, Nigeria will be worse than he found it.
Well, Mr. President, this morning is not part of my style. I prefer to converse with my guests and we leave the message. But I think we are going to cap this conversation this morning by kindly requesting Mr. President to realize that there are sharks in our oil industry who were not hatched and bred and groomed in our own waters. They swam from wherever they were born, but they're creating crisis for us. Call them out. Punish them. Get them out so that our oil industry can be safer, can be cleaner. The conversation now is illegal oil theft. Oil theft cannot be legal. Oil theft, breaking up pipelines. They blame our boys. They say our boys have arms. They have sophisticated arms. They challenge security forces. Some of them even threaten that they can bring down aircraft that comes around them and all that. But Mr. President, Nigeria is the headquarters of the black race. Yes, it is. If we falter, the black race falters. If we succeed, the black race becomes an equal competitor across the world. My guest this morning, Dr. Maurice Ibe, oil and gas consultant, a man who's deep into it, and some of the things that happen, he said, are absolute nonsense. Those in authority should please make sense of them, that we can also profit. This morning we'll be discussing Nigeria's oil industry. We began with issues in the distribution chain. Then we delved into other matters, which I'm sure that you must have picked something from. Let me, on your behalf, thank Dr. Morisibe.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure talking to you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And the show never ends. Signature Morning returns tomorrow. And let me tell you, tomorrow we will be having Nigeria's first professor in the capital market, Professor Uche Uwaleke, who last week Wednesday gave pass mark to Tinubu's fiscal policies. We will challenge him to his recommendations and see what he tells us. For this morning, just to tell you, enjoy your rest of the day. Good morning.